and don't laugh. If anybody has, some people have experienced salvia as being something that gives them the uncontrollable giggles because the absurdity of things, especially if you've just turned into paint and drip through the boards on the floor and now you're, spots of paint under the house. That's a typical weird experience that I've heard. The absurdity. I knew a Buddhist monk who smoked some once, and he fell in love. He said passionately in love with his toaster, and that so amused him that he found himself rolling on the ground laughing. And when he came out of it, he was just like, I've been a Buddhist monk for decades. What happened to me? But that can happen. Well, it's amusing. And it's even interesting, but it's not the relationship with a spirit that this plant has, I really think these plants have co-evolved with us, with our consciousness. I think that the plant world and the human mind are co-evolving together, and that this relationship is already there. And just, people have mentioned the morphogenetic field. That field is there to step into, and if you follow the way that people have already cultivated about how to have the deepest, purest relationship to one of these spirits. That's why I look at the traditions. I'm fascinated by their worldviews. I'm an intellectual. I think that that's just, mind candy to think about how people think. But that's not really the main reason that I do it. It's because I want to have that authenticity of experience myself with these species. And I feel like these people, in these various cultures that have been doing this for so long and handing it down, have really figured out the technology, the spiritual technology, the behavioral technology of relating to these species so that they can get the best result being the most rebalancing of oneself so that you can do work in the world that is balancing also. And I honestly think that whether you think of yourself as a healer or not, if you're into psychedelics and you're here at this conference, then you're a healer. You're a healer for the culture. We're all together right here on the edge of whatever is happening. And all of us are trying to figure out how to be more aware and more effective in whatever our chosen external line of work is. And if we have the nerve, which apparently we do, we're here, to look at these plants and even to talk about them out loud to each other, then we're willing to jump in the deep end of consciousness, really, like jumping in a pool, and see what we can bring to this problem. And whether the human race is going down, or we know biodiversity is diving right now, whatever epidemics, we have no idea what's coming, and it very likely could get much worse before it gets better. But there, at all eras, there have been bands of people that did healing work, bands of people who understood something and kept on just doing whatever they felt was the best thing they could do to make that picture a little better, to help those who were suffering, to retune the collective awareness, to find joy in whatever moment it is, whether through music or through beauty or whatever we teach, And so I think of all of us as healers trying to find out how to understand this language of these plants, and I put LSD in there too, these medicines that we have been blessed to discover in such an unlikely moment when we're all divorced from our roots, and yet here we are. Lucky to be alive even in a time of suffering, because look at the tools and look at the information and look how we can get together and talk about it. Digressing into the big picture, but I feel like that kind of right relationship to La Pastora is one of my great allies. She's just a miracle, and so I really encourage you to pass on a conscientious behavior, to pass it on to the young people particularly, because they're missing it. And you know why they sit so close to me? Because there's this is my estimate based on experience, there's what I call the bolt factor, that about 10% of people who do who do salvia in whatever form get up and start moving, and they don't know where they are and where they're going. They don't have any memory of it later. They'll walk right off the edge of the porch. They'll walk right into the street. How many people here have seen this kind of thing happen? Yeah, so maybe 10% have seen it. And that's why they sit so close. That's why they say don't do it alone. That's why they guard the person that's doing it. And they have salvia year-round, because she grows year-round. The mushrooms don't. They prefer the mushrooms for this reason. They say with the various species of mushrooms they use, they know that they can go far, far in the ceremony. They can have a patient who they take far, far into the realm of what's wrong and how to make it better. And they'll come back in the morning, 2 feet on the ground, sane and ready to go plant their corn. With salvia, they are never sure. There is a certain percentage that just don't come back. They just go out there, this way. And so that's another reason that it's a powerful medicine, and to be really, really